Hare Krishna. Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashadeshikare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasari Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna and welcome to each and everyone for an evening with His Holiness Radhanath Swami and all of us as His family on His appearance day that promises to be divine fun in the spirit of devotion. You may have noticed that today's theme, decor, and backdrop is all about being Himalayan. Our first tribute goes to Srila Prabhupada, whose mission and efforts are themselves Himalayan. He not only gave us the process of Krishna Bhakti that is Himalayan, but also His cherished disciples amongst us today who are bright stars that have risen and become a source of our constant inspiration. Before we begin, let us pause for a moment to put our phones in the mode of silence or vibration. And if you're a lucky parent with small children, pray to them that they please don't cry and please don't run. These 2 points on cell phone and children are critical for all of us to have fun. First, I would like to welcome His Grace Sri Nandananda Prabhu to speak a few words. We'll give you the mic, Prabhuji.
I don't know what's happening, but we're all together. That's the words from Maharaj. Actually, he told me that. But anyway, I'm not sure what to say, but I was thinking about his story today, which is all about Maharaj. But I think it was 1994, I think it was. Could be before some of you were even born. But I was at the Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra. And I was there taking photographs of all kinds of things, temples, deities, whatever I could get away with. Because sometimes you're not supposed to take, pictures in some of these places. And of course I was there for the Rath Yatra. And I was coming down the Grand Road, and behind the Gaudiya Math Temple there's a garden where Lord Krishna had shown himself to Lord Chaitanya. So I went in there to take some pictures and stuff, and there was this huge gathering of devotees. And I'm looking around, and I see on the pavilion, there's Radhanath Maharaj. Remember that? Sitting there, giving Jagannath Katha from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he's speaking away, and I was just in there, being as incognito as I can be, because sometimes I take pride in myself being invisible while I'm taking pictures, so I don't want people to look at me, I want to take pictures of them. So I was in there, and the pavilion where Maharaj was, must have been like 50 yards away. And I'm in the back, and I'm thinking, well, this will make a good picture. I'll take a picture of the crowd, Maharaj way up there on the stage, and then I'll be on my way. And, take pictures of other stuff. I got things to do, right? And then I'm taking a few. So many devotees are here, all talking about Lord Jagannath from the lips of Maharaj, and, in Jagannath Puri, in time for Rath Yatra. I was going like, this is exceptional. This is just like out of the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then I was thinking, it's not just out of the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is like a continuation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a continuation of the movement of Lord Chaitanya. And in many ways, we can say the same thing here. This is like a continuation of the movement of ISKCON's branch of Lord Chaitanya's mission. We're continuing the process. These are all pastimes that could be included in the next edition of the Vrindavan or Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is predicted that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, not Vishwanath Chakravarti, but Vrindavan Das Thakur, is supposed to continue in his later editions of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's described that he's going to come back and write more of it, in which case ISKCON should be a part of that. So then I was thinking like that. I was thinking this is just like, the continuation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the sense that it's Lord Chaitanya's mission and we're a part of it. So in that sense, we should all be so fortunate, and we should consider ourselves extremely fortunate to be a part of Lord Chaitanya's mission, even if it's here in Canton, Michigan, an extension of Ypsilanti, an extension of Detroit, wherever else we spread in Michigan, that this is a branch of Lord Chaitanya's mission which is meant to save humanity, somehow or another. In this world of Kali Yuga right now, the way things are going, I don't know how things are going to spread, I don't know how things are going to expand, but somehow it's expanding, somehow or another, overwhelming oddities. Somehow it's still expanding, and we still have Maharaj here to help guide us, to train us, to give us inspiration, to develop our love for Krishna, which is the essential part over and above any other level of self-realization. Attaining love for Krishna is more important than any other process of self-realization. That's one thing we need to consider. And so we're here, we're doing it, we're engaging in it, we're all helping each other go back to Godhead. So in that regard, whether we're simply sitting here listening, whether we're chanting our japa, whether we're reading books about Krishna, Prabhupada's books, whether we're engaged in deity service, we should, at every moment and with every breath we breathe, feel ourselves zooming right out of this material world. Simple as that. Every breath we breathe is another breath in the world. And if we can keep that in mind, then everything we do in Krishna consciousness, chanting our japa, reading the books, engaging in deity worship, simply sitting here listening, should give us the inspiration to continue in that process no matter what else happens. So with that, I think I'm done.
Yes, thank you, Guru.
That qualifies me for a seat in the audience.
Yes, yes. And now we would request Chintamani Mataji to speak a few words, if she are able to.
I wish I would have known ahead of time. I didn't know I was going to speak. I only know Maharaj from a distance. I mean, because he was a brahmachari, an inmate of New Vrindavan in the early 70s, up at the old original farm. I remember Maharaj coming. He still had some hair. So he was coming. He had been to Vrindavan, India, and what you thought of New Vrindavan or what you were expecting. There was only a handful of people at that time, and I can't really speak about Maharaj. I just know that from seeing him from a distance, he was like a sadhu, and I never saw him get angry. He was always like not lusty, like just like he is now. So, I mean, I don't know who he was in a past life, or if he had a past life. I don't know, but it's someone you can follow that I have faith in. Someone that as a god sister could look up to him, and thank God there's devotees like him that we can look up to, because it's not always easy. Anyway, all glories to Radhanath Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Next I would request Nityananda Prabhu to speak a few words. He's from New Vrindavan.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvisesha Sunyavani Paschatya Disatadane. Sri Dandananda Prabhu said, somehow we are here all together. So yesterday, when Radhanath Swami came into the temple, he embraced me. It was very warm and sweet as usual. And he whispered something in my ear. He said, by Krishna's grace, I cannot escape you. And actually that's true for all of us. We're all in this together by the grace of Srila Prabhupada has created such a wonderful family. And we are together whether we know it or like it or not. And I'm just so grateful to have experienced so many wonderful exchanges with Maharaj over the years. He's my friend, but he's also been my, godbrother and teacher in every regard. I was able to engage in all the activities of devotional service with him, chanting japa together intimately at Old Vrindavan and Jagannath Puri, Haridas Thakur Samadhi. I mean, so many places we sat together. Just recently at New Vrindavan, we were sitting together, chanting japa together, and while we're chanting japa so intensely, he leaned over and said, I have to sit farther from you because I have this irresistible urge to talk to you. So it's amazing, these intimate exchanges of love. And, we chanted japa together. In the early days we were doing kirtan, just a handful of brahmacharis at Old Vrindavan farm. He was leading kirtan. And at cooking for Radhanath in the basement of the Old Vrindavan farm, I somehow or another was his assistant. I wasn't even initiated, and I ended up, and when he cooked, he was so intense. He didn't say a word, except if he said anything, it was kind of like a chastisement, And it was so intimate. And then after we cooked, we were talking about the other day, after we cooked a whole feast for the Lord, we were just the two of us up there alone in the winter, and he would go down and offer the prasad to the deities, and then I would transfer the plates, and then we'd bring all the maha up, like 20 preparations up, and it was just me and him sitting there. and while we're eating the prasadam, he would explain different ways to actually eat prasadam properly. One of the preps that he had, recipe from probably Mangalananda Prabhu, was the breadsticks. So breadsticks, you just don't eat breadsticks alone, he explained. You eat breadsticks with kofta balls and tomato sauce on top. And it becomes like something that we gave up eating to become devotees, but the taste was there. And we would just relish that prasada together, And then this is like the middle of the winter. We're looking outside the windows at Old Vrindavan. And Radhanath Maharaj would tell me, this is Krishna's Vrindavan. Radha Vrindavan are out there playing in the fields and lifting Govardhan Hill. Everything that we read in Krishna book is actually happening. He had such faith in the deity worship. So I was able to be engaged with deity worship with him. He taught me how to, treat the devotee, the deity paraphernalia with such, attention and devotion, engaging us in simple things for the deity, but with love. So, this is the kind of experience I had. Recently, Maharaj was visiting New Vrindavan. Shh, it was a secret, but somehow he came. So I was there, and I happened to know where he was hiding. And I had to go to a meeting. I had to leave the darshan. So I went down to the meeting, and after the meeting, I was looking for my shoes. I couldn't find my shoes anywhere. So I held up these shoes that looked like mine. I said, whose shoes are these? Does anybody know who these shoes are? I can't find my shoes. And everybody said, no, don't know whose they are. Then I realized that I had put Maharaj's shoes on. They looked like mine. And I had left where he was staying and went down, and I was wearing his shoes. And I felt bad, but I thought, maybe it wasn't so bad. I didn't know. But that night, I had this dream. Actually, for the next 2 nights, I had these dreams that Radhanath Maharaj was looking at me with such a stern look. And I was really getting afraid. So I told him, I'm sorry, I took your shoes and I was wearing them. So he didn't think anything of it, just kind of like. And then we were walking through the temple, and he said, I want to go upstairs. So, okay, so let's go upstairs. We started walking toward where the internal stairs to get up to the ashram was, and there was no longer there because it was under construction. So we had to go out the back door. We went out the back door, and Mara says, my shoes, I left them in the front. Maybe we just can take somebody's shoes and go up. That's kind of a pastime at New Vrindavan, You never know where your shoes are. So he sees a pair of shoes, he puts them on, and he turns around and he says, are these your shoes? And I said, yes. He said, what goes around comes around. and he walked upstairs, and we walked together upstairs. So, he's my guru in the sense that he's my teacher. Everything that I learned in Krishna consciousness, I learned personally from him by being close to him. But he's my friend, my dear friend, and I can't live without him. And I'm so happy that we're here all together. He won't he can't escape me. And I hope we never will. Hare Krishna.
Next up, I'd like to request Her Grace Mother Malti, who's the GBC from Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky, to speak a few words about Maharaj.
God, it is so cold looking in here. And then I was feeling cold, so I came up with my sweater on because I thought it was going to be cold, but somehow it's warm snow. So this is a family birthday celebration. We are not having I can't even say the word, but it begins with a V. Vyasa. Anyway. I don't know, I think Nityadita should come back up here and keep talking. It was so blissful. So my first meeting with Maharaj was in Bombay, India, at one of the infamously called Pandal programs. So if you don't know what a Pandal program is, because now we use words like that, they're just normal for us, but maybe you don't know what they are. So gigantic, huge, huge tents, like thousands of people can be in the tents. And His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was the featured speaker for 10 days in a row at this place in central part of Bombay called Cross Maidan. And every day, thousands and thousands of people were coming to hear, and it was like 3 times a day. So in the morning, there would maybe be a lesser, but still several thousand people. And even some little thing in the afternoon, the evening, it was just a humongous amount of people. And somehow this young Western person, I'm inclined to say kind of scrawny looking, sorry Maharaj, with straggly hair into what we call dreadlocks. So for those who don't know what dreadlocks are, you don't cut your hair and you keep twisting it and twisting it. And I don't know, did you put ashes in your hair? But it was, so he was in this audience, and His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada saw him, and he called him up on the stage. You know, and sat with him. And then later I was in the back room, and I was told to bring some prasadam, which I did, and it was for this scrawny little guy with these dreadlocks. All I know that they said, they called you Jerry. Is that right? Or Richard, you know, Richardson. There was no exchange, just the prasadam, no verbal exchange. But you know, sometimes when you see somebody, and you don't know them, you don't get to know them, and that's, you know, and then that's it. It's not like this burning memory. But it so happened that in 1990, so it was a good 20-something years, 20 years at least, I was in New Vrindavan, and it was, believe it or not, December 7th. And they were telling me that this sannyasi was coming. And I had gone through a very rough period, and it wasn't a short period, it was pretty prolonged. And I was kind of coming out of the fog and the stupor and of that period. And I remember seeing in New York City, in Tompkins Square Park, these people, Hare Krishna type of people, you know, chanting. And one day, I'm backtracking a little, but one day there was a fellow that I recognized was a sannyasi. I didn't recognize him, but a sannyasi. And then another sannyasi came, and these two sannyasis embraced each other. And it was actually a little startling for me, because at that point, and coming from the way back in the days where I came from, that type of what we nowadays they say PDA, public display of affection. Anyway, that wasn't going on so much. And I was watching that, and I felt such a nice feeling to think, oh, people can actually like each other in this movement, and can show it, you know, and then embrace each other. So then December 7th in New Vrindavan, covered with snow actually, there was some construction an attempt at construction. And so one of the interesting things about that era was that almost every night there would be a kirtan somewhere, but they wouldn't be advertised. And I was just coming as a guest, a visitor from Ohio, from Columbus. And so I heard that, well, okay, it's going to be out on the Mahadoram, that's where the construction was going. And that meant this house, like a trailer house, you know, when people live in these trailers. And it was on the edge, literally hanging over a cliff. So you never knew if you got too ecstatic and dancing, if that thing was going to stay on the solid ground. And that night, the sannyasi was coming. And then they mentioned it was his birthday, appearance day. So I was kind of curious. But I was also had a little bit of a cynical, dialogue, and I'm, well, you know, kind of like Prabhupada when he was being told to come and meet his Guru Maharaj, and he'd seen so many different sadhus that he wasn't too excited to meet his Guru Maharaj because he didn't know he was going to be meeting his Guru Maharaj. So I had a little bit of cynicism, I have to admit, and apologize for. So we're waiting, we're in there, kirtan's going on, and I can't remember if Maharaj came first or the cake. But it was because it was so cold, this kind of little guy with a Nepali hat with the ear flaps and a string to tie it together, and some big coat came in. But when he took off that hat and he took off the coat, I recognized somehow or other, even though the hair was now not there anymore, but I recognized this was the person I saw in Bombay. I was a little, it just seemed, not a shock in a bad way, it was a little bit of a shock that I even remembered, and that he would be here on the edge of a cliff or in the snow in a house trailer in New Vrindavan. And then they gave him this cake, and he cut the cake, and he offered me the first piece, and then I understood that you actually knew, you recognized me. So, you know. But the Columbus Temple was just kind of in a limbo, and I had volunteered to go and stay there for a while because they said they were going to close it down. And I thought, well, Prabhupada, he said if we open a temple, we can't close it. You can't do that. And I knew they had deities, so it was even more astounding. So I said, okay, maybe I can do something. So I was kind of just hanging around there. But it was Maharaj really who kick-started that place. You know, I was there keeping the door, you know, I didn't even have a key to the door. That's how deficient things were. But started going to these rainbow gatherings, which if you don't know what they are, I won't take the time to explain. But these young ladies started coming back. And Maharaj was telling them to go stay with me in Columbus. You know, it was like, that was a real test of faith there. But because of that, these beautiful young ladies would come. And by beautiful, I'm speaking from the heart, their hearts. They were beautiful young ladies. And so the Columbus Temple, the Columbus Krishna House, as it was known, became a refugee for young ladies. Most of them were sent by Maharaj, and because there wasn't a place really for ladies otherwise. So a lot of times I get some, you know, misaligned credit for doing something, but actually it was Maharaj who was behind that. And not only am I grateful, but all of those survivors, I'm saying that because just recently this year, one of the first ones left her body. And she was a really sweet soul that was beloved to Maharaj, and she loved him. And we'd be at these rainbow gatherings, and he'd ask her to cook. And it wasn't easy cooking at a rainbow gathering, but she would do it. So many other things. But these young ladies got their spiritual start in life. I mean, in spite of me, I have to say, but it was by Maharaj's mercy that they are able to come in contact with the Holy Name, come in contact with Lord Chaitanya, and come in contact with Maharaj. And one of the qualities of a devotee, humility. And I saw some pretty astounding humility from Maharaj at several occasions. Just one that kind of strikes out, It was a rainbow gathering. It was out, I can't remember the state, but it was out west, and we had to go around a big lake. Huh? Colorado. So you know, these gatherings, you park your car, your van, whatever, somewhere, and you have to hike in. And this one was particularly a hike because you had to go around this lake. And at the time we had these teepees. I had a teepee, Nitradita had a teepee. His was giant. Mine was like 16 feet, but his was like 32 feet. It meant you had to have these giant poles. And somebody got the idea that we could take our teepee poles, tie them together, and make a raft. And then use some of the poles to, you know, a couple of the poles to get across the lake. So that's how we got most of our heavy stuff over there, got ourselves over there. But one day I had to, once you went in, you usually didn't come out. You just didn't want to take that hike again. But for some reason, I had to come out to my van. And I never locked my van because I thought, if I lock it and somebody wants to get in, they'll break in. So I just might as well leave it open. You know? And so I came out. Whatever I had to do, I did it. And I was going back to the lake, and I saw Maharaj standing there on the raft. He was just standing alone on the raft, you know. And suddenly this big, huge, bearded, not very clean looking, I don't want to say dirty, but you know, he wasn't a very clean looking guy. He gets on the raft and he goes, "Take me across." Just ordered Maharaj, "Take me across." And Maharaj just picked up the pole, which was bigger than him, and he just took this fellow across. And I was watching this, and I was thinking, my God, this guy has no idea what just happened to him. Because he could take you across the lake of birth, death, disease, and old age, and you just want to go across this little puddle. And on that same occasion, the weather didn't turn for the worse. We got a little snow. And then somebody came and said to me, "Look, there's this young girl. All her stuff was stolen. And can she stay with you in your teepee?" And being the benevolent person I am, I go, "Well, does she have lice?" And so, anyway, yes, she can come. So that night we're in the big teepee where we would have our evening kirtan with Maharaj. And the next day, walking up the path, nobody was on this little path, and suddenly Maharaj was coming down the path, so I moved over to the side. But this girl, who was now living with me in my teepee, said, she looks and she starts walking to him really fast. She goes, "Maharaj, you look like you need a hug," and she grabbed him. And she wasn't fat, but she was strong, big girl. So she's holding on to him, and he's like looking at me like, "Do something," but what was I supposed to do, you know? So kind of got him disentangled. And that night, later I took her at the time, I said, "You know, we exhibit our hugs in a different way. Would you like to learn?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So you bow down, and I taught her Vanchikapa Tarubhishta. I said, that's a spiritual hug. So she liked that. So that night in the teepee, she gets up and she goes over to Maharaj, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what's she going to do? And she bowed down and she recited the whole prayer. So, a moment's association with a pure devotee has an effect. I would like to say something just briefly, if you don't mind, to the new initiates and old initiates even. But, you know, not maybe for some of you, it may be the first time you're here with Maharaj, and you may be thinking, "Oh, will I go Vijay Govinda? Will I see him again?" You know, these thoughts run in the mind. And everybody wants a bit of the time, and you know, well, I get to see him. I mean. But the seeing is not with these eyes, just like, you know, we understand how we see spiritually is through the ears. So Maharaj may not give you a personal darshan, not because he doesn't want to do that, but, you know, the reality is it's kind of not always something that can be easily done. And I mean, there were my god brothers and sisters who never even saw Prabhupada one time, but they heard. They heard Prabhupada speaking, they heard about Prabhupada from the rest of us. They got initiated by a letter. Maharaj says he won't even do letters. He'll see you, you'll see him. He comes to you. You know. So Maharaj has such a profuse, wonderful way of speaking about Krishna, about introducing us to Lord Chaitanya, about speaking the Bhagavatam. He can speak pastimes non-stop, not to entertain you, but to tie you closer and connect you closer to Krishna. And he's just like with Srila Prabhupada, there's so much media. With all the books, all the lectures, there's videos. So also with Maharaj, there's the same opportunity to associate with Maharaj through the sound vibration. And also because of the what do you call, videos, you can see videos. So even though that feeling may be there and is definitely probably there, you're never bereft of his association. Srila Prabhupada saw his Guru Maharaj, what, 3 times, I think? Something like that. And then one letter where he got an answer, last letter. You know, if you want a guru who's going to answer your every email and you can call him up at any old moment, it's not what Maharaj is. He's giving himself fully and personally to each and every one of you. It's said in the Bhagavatam that the great saints leave behind the message with which others can transcend and go forward. So we hope Maharaj stays a much longer time, but he is leaving you fully equipped with his words, with his messages, his classes, his instructions. It's all there for you. He's not talking for himself, he's giving himself to you. So please accept this personal, very personal way that he is interacting with you. Just as Prabhupada did not see each and every one of his disciples. Sometimes he would meet somebody and he would say, what is their name? What is your name? He didn't always know everybody's name. How could he do that, you know? So I hope that you'll realize, those of you in particular who are just initiated, those who have already been initiated, the new Brahmins, that Krishna has provided you with a most adequate, wonderful personality to lead you over the ocean of birth and death. You just have to take it. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Next, we will request Kamagiri Mataji to speak a few words for a couple minutes.
I have 2.5 minutes. Maharaj, may I share something about you with everyone? Is it okay? Malati Prabhu. Hare have your permission to, no, this way, to share. Maybe here's good. To share. Offer my obeisances to all my God brothers and God sisters. Some of you I know personally, but some of you I don't know. I had the greatest fortune. I had the greatest fortune to first hear about Radhanath. That was when he was a brahmachari. And I never saw him for a long time. So I started coming to Vrindavan in 1975. And it wasn't modern at all. It was the temple in Bahulaban. And there was no gas heat. It was just wood fires. But the mood of New Vrindavan was the mood of Vrindavan. Everything was for the pleasure of Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra and Srila Prabhupada. And so when I would come, I would just hear about Radhanath. I never saw him for a long time because he was always up in Old Vrindavan Farm taking care of Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Nath. But I would hear stories about him. And I wanted to meet him, but I wasn't fortunate in the beginning. And then sometimes he would come down and give class. And as Malati was saying, you know, when he speaks about the glorious pastimes of the Lord, he can take you into the pastime. You feel that, where you can really experience what he's talking about if you're attentive. And so just as Nityodita was sharing how they can't escape each other, but Nityodita's been around. I've known him for so long as well. And thank you for staying, because he wanted to escape yesterday, but I'm glad you stayed. But after Maharaj took sannyas, I was living in Cleveland at the time, and Maharaj would come to Cleveland at least once a week. I don't know how many days he would stay, but he would always come at least once a week. So we were always very excited, because when Maharaj would come, at that time, he would lead kirtan for hours. He would play the drum and he would just chant and dance and dance and chant. And a lot of times Bhakti Tirtha Swami would also be there, and they would just dance together and chant and dance and chant and dance and chant. So the morning program lasted so long. But we were just so happy just to be able to dance and chant. You know, when you think about eating prasad or anything, we were just happy just chanting and dancing with Maharaj and His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And then I got to, like, you know how when you don't really know much about anything? So Maharaj would just come, and if I was offering arti on the altar, immediately everything started shaking, because you knew that something was going to go wrong while you were doing your service. And you knew that you might get chastised. And for me to get chastised was the worst thing, you know, so I was like, please, Radha, don't let me drop the ghee lamp. But Maharaj's mercy is so, ring the bell with your mouth when my time is up. Maharaj's mercy is so causeless. His mercy is so causeless because he wants to bring everybody to the feet of Srila Prabhupada. And I can say with all conviction, Maharaj, that there's many things, but one thing, and I share with the devotees, is that I appreciate your obedience to Srila Prabhupada's mission and to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. I have witnessed this over the years since I first saw you, and I'm still witnessing it to this day. And the love that he has for everyone, it doesn't matter. I mean, Anyway, I love you so much. My children, another set of children came and grandchildren have come, and my great-granddaughter is here today to be with you on this very special day. And I would say more, but time is not permitting. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Next is our own Yugal Kishore Prabhuji from ISKCON Farmington Hills.
नमाम विष्णु पदाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी नमाम विष्णु पदाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पश्चात निषेधारणे I was also told to cut short my speech. I wish you happy appearance, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. 2004-2005, one young aspiring disciple asked Maharaj, "What do you expect from your disciples?" Maharaj said, "Thank you." I mentioned this many times. Definitely for new people, it will help. Sadhana, service attitude, serve the authority, take responsibility. And he paused and he said, good relationships. So I was meditating on this point. In early days, you would rise at 2 a.m. and do the service till 11 p.m. And then, part of sadhana, he would read Srila Prabhupada books. He mentioned, I would fall asleep, but as a vow to read Srila Prabhupada books, he would walk and read. So this is all we should read, because nowadays many people don't read Srila Prabhupada books on regular basis, daily at least. The second one is service attitude. His lectures, initial lectures, even any lecture actually, would not end without Trunadapi Sunichana. Many times I felt in Sikshastakam why fourth verse is given as fourth verse, but not third verse, and third verse as fourth verse. But later, when I heard the lectures again and again, one has to go through Trunadapi process to attain Nishta and Ruchi, Asakti, so on, go forward, Bhava and Prema. So, without having this mindset of servant, we cannot properly render our service. He emphasized again and again, this is needed if we really want to go through Anardhana Vritti and go to Nishta and further. It is very difficult for anybody. Why we have only one person? Because somebody has applied it thoroughly in his life. That's why his preaching has been very effective. Then serve the authority. Actually that day he said, surrender the authority. But 15 years later, world changed. That's why I changed to serve the authority. But that's very important, because spiritual master is somewhere, we see him only once a year. So taking instructions from local authorities and following them will please him. I've seen so many examples. One day devotees from Seattle came. Maharaj told them, if you serve Harivilas Prabhu, you will please me. As an example, I told this. Many years I could not understand service attitude and taking responsibility. But now I am very clear what is taking responsibility and what is a service attitude. Taking responsibilities in higher. The last one is one thing definitely that will please him is if we maintain good relationships. Servant of servant may be difficult, but we can maintain good relationships as a good friend. This he has been following for so many years. He has dedicated his life to the movement. What is the result? Result is, one day, I'll give you this example. I was invited to attend this program in California for one of the Maharaj programs. When I went there, I saw one lady speaking, but the Maharaj was not speaking. I was thinking, what is her connection with this program if this is Maharaj program? This lady, later I came to know, her name was Mercy Shimov, 7 times New York Times bestseller. But, she had 7 books that are New York Times bestsellers. She said, the seventh book I sold, that day, I went to Chicago. 7,000 people were there. I hired a masseur to massage my hands. And after that program, so many people, I went to my 7-star hotel, started crying, what do you want in this world? She said, I have a very good relationship with my husband and so much money in him, but I'm not happy. I wrote a book, happy for no reason, but I'm not happy. People in America, they read my books, especially youth. So to overcome from that, I went to Rishikesh. Then one day I came to parking lot. Then I saw light coming from one place in this parking lot. I'm a born New Yorker, very bald. I went to that place where light is coming. Sun is up in the air. Why the light is coming from here? When I went close, it was a person. And I asked, who are you? Why light is coming from you? That person said, my name is Radhanath Swami. To cut this story short, I wrote all these books, but whenever I went to him, he lifted my spirits beyond expectation. Though she wrote so many books, low moments, up and down and high and low moments we always go through. She said, she doesn't ISKCON. She said, America has a hope. One person in America is very pure. America has a hope. This person doesn't need anything from this world. So, Guru Maharaj, very grateful to you for your presence. Because of your selfless sacrifice, you have given life to so many devotees. I hope and pray that will not go waste. And many devotees will continue your legacy year after year, birth after birth. Thank you very much.
With the blessings of Yugal Kishore Prabhuji and on behalf of all the devotees present, before you address us, Maharaj, we would like to take briefly a few moments to share with you our emotion in the form of a salutation for your auspicious Appearance Day occasion. Maharaj, as we were witnessing winding down of 2022, we all were feeling that your visit to Metro Detroit was overdue. But now having you amongst us today, we celebrate you not only by saying hip hip hooray, but also first welcome you by loudly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Maharaj, your presence for all of us is like this word Hare. Shastras say that all we need is a moment's association of sadhus for our shortcomings to go away. And your arrival in our lives has carved a way for us to propel us out of the cycle of birth and death that is ever prevalent in the galaxy's Milky Way. Maharaj, so many hearts you have won by surrendering to the one and only one, and that is His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who accepted you as His Divine Son. Your journey home and journey within got rid of our confusion and outlined the path for everyone on how to attain the supreme goal and destination. More importantly, taught us how to become a human by becoming a das, anudas, anudas, anudas of a Param Das like Hanuman. Your Vani mesmerizes everyone. Your Vapu brightens the room like the radiant sun. It is hard to describe your accomplishments as to what you have done. So let's summarize by saying that we feel extremely blessed and grateful that you have accepted all of us as your chosen one. It had been quite some time since your last visit to Metro Detroit during the temple inauguration, where even the lordships were wondering and also eagerly awaiting your arrival and association. Where is Radhanath Swami, who did our installation? But due to COVID's havoc and commotion, we totally understand your travel limitation. Throughout, we have sincerely tried our best to stay absorbed in performing Hare Krishna Maha Mantra meditation. And today our prayers got answered in the form of a pleasant surprise by you by making Metro Detroit your last-minute destination. As a bonus, many devotees got an infusion of a new and better life by getting their first or second initiation. Your lectures, be it on Bhagavatam, Gita, or the golden avatar incarnation, or of the 6 Goswamis of Mathura and Vrindavan, captures us in rapt attention, because you have a natural ability to put us right in the middle of the pastimes, not only in person, but also with perfect dramatization, enunciation, and phonation. After finishing the pastime, when you tell us to loudly chant Jai Sachinandan, Jai Yashodanandan, Jai Devakinandan, we come back to our senses and awaken. Devotees look at each other in exclamation. What just happened? What happened was that you left us spellbound, speechless, and frozen. Then in addition, your sense of humor makes us all laugh in jubilation. Your Kirtan Maharaj not only puts us in a state of trance, dance, parlance, ecstatic stance, but also in a state of blissful meditative absorption. This makes us want to do more holy name glorification. Undoubtedly, these are fantastic gifts that you have been given. And we are so happy that you're doing your best all the time to share these gifts with each and every one. Finally, Maharaj, our limited understanding is that you like 4 things in unison. First, our service attitude in line with spirited and selfless devotion. Then, humility, tolerance, and loving relation with each and every one in this creation. We believe these bring you immense joy and satisfaction, especially from all of us in this disciplic succession. Maharaj, while we perform our own self-introspection towards these 4 basics of qualification, continue to bless us. As you know, we all have our own trials and tribulation, such as laziness, conditioning, and mental agitation. But we do humbly state that we have strong faith, conviction, and determination. No matter what, we are all here 100% in body, mind, and spirit in this mission. Finally, we wish you the best of health and sincerely thank you again for this vital, life-infusing, in-person visitation and giving us all the much-needed inspiration. Now I request everyone to please welcome His Holiness Radhanath Swami to the stage with a resounding ovation.
Let's listen to the class.
Jnananjanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jutha Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tatta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna takes Arjuna between the two armies and says, just look and see who is coming. I'm so happy to see all of you. Thank you very much for being here. I'm truly honored and grateful to be in such a devoted assembly of Vaishnavis. As I was coming up, Jagat Guru Prabhu showed me on his cellular phone a message from Ambarish Prabhu and Swaha Devi, where they're bestowing their kindness, their blessings upon me. and I was thinking, what should I say? And then I saw that message. And here in the Detroit area, Ambarish Prabhu and Swaha Devi's great-grandfather, Henry Ford, he did something very revolutionary. Because people were manufacturing and selling cars. But he devised an assembly line where when people together in an assembly, they harmonized with each other for the purpose of making the cars, it made it available to everyone. Srila Prabhupada came to this country to establish the Sankirtan movement. Kirtan has always been chanting God's names. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he described Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. Sankirtan means in an assembly, all of us together, we're harmonized with one purpose. In the assembly line, everyone's harmonized with one purpose, to play their role to make a car. And the car's supposed to take you somewhere. In the assembled devotees, who are coordinated and harmonized with the spirit of devotion to Krishna, when we come together, it magnifies the power in which the effect of the holy names could be spread throughout the world. So sometimes a disciplic succession is a line of disciplic succession, so we are in an assembly line. That's a Detroit way of discussing Sankirtan. But in an assembly line, if people just do whatever they want to do without considering what everybody else is doing, it creates havoc. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes the prime benediction for all humanity is Sankirtan, it gives us a sense of the responsibility of what Sankirtan actually means. It doesn't just mean a lot of people coming together and dancing and singing. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they demonstrated personally what Sankirtan meant. In fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began the Sankirtan movement after first he was initiated by his guru. Before that, he was the greatest scholar, defeating the greatest pundits in scriptural debates. But he never established the Sankirtan movement until he humbly served, surrendered, and took initiation from his guru, Ishvara Puri. Why Ishvara Puri? Madhavendra Puri had such great, powerful disciples. All of them fully qualified in every way. But everything Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did was to teach. Ishwara Puri, when his guru, Madhavendra Puri, was physically in a state of invalidity. He couldn't walk. He couldn't sit up. He was just laying in a bed crying in separation from Krishna. It is described, Ishwara Puri, he was constantly speaking about Krishna to his guru. You people always do this and it never makes any difference. Somebody told him to do it. Ishwara Puri was reminding him of Krishna. Now, how do you remind your guru about Krishna? Madhavendra Puri is a kalpa-vriksha tree from the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindavan. He's the root of ecstatic, pure love of God and the mood of conjugal rasa in our whole parampara. Yes, Nityananda Prabhu, Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Puri, Keshav Bharati, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, so many great disciples. How is Ishwara Puri reminding his guru about Krishna? Because that was Madhavendra Puri's humility. He just wanted to hear about Krishna. With total humility, he's chanting Krishna's glories to his guru, not to teach him, but to serve him. And while doing that, he was massaging his guru. And with great love, respect, and gratitude, he considered it his highest honor that he had the privilege of cleaning the urine and stool from his guru's body because his guru couldn't get up. Madhavendra Puri physically was in a completely helpless condition. Ishwara Puri, in his total gratitude and surrender, was offering this service. And Madhavendra Puri, crying in separation from Krishna, where is Krishna? Why I don't have Krishna? Another god brother of Ishwara Puri, Ramachandra Puri, he heard his guru calling, where is Krishna? O Lord of Mathura, why have you left me? I am in despair. He said, if you're not feeling Krishna, then you should take shelter of Brahma. He was taking the humility of his guru to be something ordinary and giving him another kind of instruction. But Ishwara Puri was humbly serving and chanting Krishna's glories. And Madhavendra Puri said, my son, my child, may Krishna bless you with pure ecstatic love. That was all. Because his guru felt that about him, the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. in his most munificent, fullest avatar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna experiencing and teaching to the world the love of Sri Radha. No other avatar is doing that. Even Krishna himself didn't do that. So freely. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he surrendered his life to Ishwara Puri because Ishwara Puri received that blessing from his Guru Madhavendra Puri. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he described when he was in Varanasi, he was in the assembly of those Mayavadi sannyasis, and they were criticizing Lord Chaitanya. Why are you doing all the sentimental chanting and dancing with all these common people? You should be with us scholars and renunciates discussing Vedanta. Lord Chaitanya came to their assembly. He's God. He is the source of the source of the source of Karanodakshai Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu, he exhales in the entire cosmic manifestation with all the universes come. He inhales and it's all destroyed. Not just a universe, everything. Lord Chaitanya could have just inhaled. And he would have resolved all conflicts. But what did he do? He went into the door and he sat on the floor in the place where all of those learned renunciates washed their feet. He sat in that place. They all just washed their feet, and then it's a dirty place. They went up to a high level where they sat and presided. But he sat in the foot wash. But he radiated such love and light. Prakashananda Saraswati, the guru and leader, he said, why don't you come and sit with us? And Lord Chaitanya said, I'm not qualified. You are very learned renunciates. Who am I? This is God speaking. This is Krishna. This is a different mood than Lord Narsinghadev or Varahadev or Parasaram. But who's the source of Parasaram, Narsingha, and Varaha? And ultimately, Prakashananda Saraswati was so charmed by the humility of this person, he came down and took him by the hand to bring him up. But what happened? Because Prakashananda Saraswati was offering that seva with a sense of appreciation for the qualities of Lord Chaitanya, his heart was open to receive his mercy. And Prakashananda Saraswati Thakur, he said, why is it you're not associating with us? Why you're with all these sentimentalists? I live in India, so there's really a lot of babies in India. So, I'm kind of trained. He said, Lord Mahaprabhu said, my Guru Maharaj said, I'm a fool. I cannot understand Vedanta. I should chant the holy names of Krishna. And he said, I started chanting Hare Krishna, and I was feeling like a madman. And I went back to my guru. I said, what's happening to me? And my guru Maharaj said, oh, congratulations, you've attained the goal of life. This is love for Krishna, the only goal of life. Or let us say the only highest goal of life. There are limitless goals that people have in their lives. And it was then that Ishwara Puri told Lord Chaitanya, now you should spread the Sankirtan movement throughout the world. And when he received that blessing, that instruction, then he came back to Navadvip and actually established the Sankirtan movement. At the beginning, he did it with his closest associates at Srivas Angam. It's a courtyard in the home of Srivas Thakur. And it was just among themselves. They would chant and dance, and nobody else was allowed to come in because they didn't want people to misunderstand. And one day Lord Chaitanya told them, we're chanting during the day, but human life is so precious. We're wasting all the moments of the night. For the next 1 year, we should chant all night long, every night. Now, if someone told you that, because it's not that they just got to sleep all day. They were chanting and dancing all day, and many of them had jobs and everything like that. But they would, every night, for 1 year, they chanted. And Lord Chaitanya, at the very beginning, he told them how it's possible to chant like this. And he gave this verse. Trinada Pisuni Chena, Taror Ibasi Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadari. To strive to be humble. Now, there's so many definitions of humility. But what a graphic example, like a blade of grass. Or sometimes it's translated like a piece of straw in the street. To be tolerant, like a tree. You see these trees here on the stage? They're evergreens. I don't know if they're actually real evergreens, but I know the snow is not real. These evergreens are, they're having a very luxurious life. They're covered with snow, but they're in a very nice warm room. So sometimes, like these evergreens, we want to pretend that we're very austere and humble. We're not like that at all. We put on a show of it. But the evergreens in the Himalayas, that's for real. Some of those places, 365 days a year, it's covered with snow. And they're just standing there. And you may say, well, they're trees, they got used to it. That's our way of justifying that I'm not a tree, I can't do that. But when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's a super soul in every tree, he knows what they're really feeling. When he says tolerant like a tree, that is a great message. And interesting, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he speaks about tolerance, and he uses Haridas Thakur and others as the personifications of tolerance. Titiksha. It's involved in, it's usually focused on the quality of compassion and forgiveness. Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how they personified. Lord Chaitanya he didn't mind what was people insulting him. But if somebody insulted his devotee, he would be like fire. So the Lord actually taught us practically what tolerance really is. To offer respect to others, to not demand or expect it for oneself. This was the verse that Lord Chaitanya taught by which devotees could chant the holy names constantly. And from there, throughout the day and throughout the night, it was the community of devotees among themselves learning how to inspire love of God in each other throughout the day and night. And there were so many different kinds of devotees there, from different castes, from different backgrounds, different natures. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was like a multimillionaire type of person. Kalavecha Sridhar was just a poverty-stricken little banana seller. Advaita Acharya is an avatar, the leader of the whole Brahmin community. Haridas Thakur is an outcast, untouchable. They're all having different backgrounds. But they had one purpose. Madhvaka puja yadika. Krishna tells, the one who worships me is not as dear to me as one who worships my devotees. In fact, just this morning I was listening to a recording of Srila Prabhupada, and he was explaining that if you are envious of Krishna, Krishna does not take offense as much as if you're envious of his devotees. What does Sankirtan really mean? Yes, for that 1 year, of course they were completely transcendental Nitya Siddha people, but they were playing the roles of devotees to teach us within their own community. And that beloved story from the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Prabhupada cites it, where Lord Chaitanya was giving benedictions to every devotee. It was just once during that 1 year. Lord Chaitanya was always in the mood of a Vaishnav. Everybody knew he was Krishna, but if anyone ever said you're a Krishna, he would block his ears and say, don't ever say like this. I'm only the servant of Krishna. But on one occasion, just to make everybody happy, he sat on the altar. And he manifested himself as Krishna. And he called each devotee one after another, every one of them, and revealed to them just the form that they worshipped. Murari Gupta's Hanuman. Lord Chaitanya manifested his form. He said, Murari, look at me. Murari looked up, and Lord Chaitanya was Lord Ram. Not only Lord Ram, but he expanded. There was Ram. On one side was Sita. On another side was Lakshman. And then Murari Gupta just happened to look down, and he saw that he had a tail. Because there was no mirrors where he could see himself. He just looked down, and there was a tail on him. And he was bewildered, and Lord Chaitanya said, Hanuman! And then he realized he was Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya manifested his form. And he said, any benediction that you desire, I will fulfill. What is it? Now this is for real. This is not just a hypothetical idea where we can, play being saintly. If God himself is offering you any benediction, some of us would ask for good health, or to go back to Godhead, or to be empowered to do wonderful things. Murari Gupta, who's Hanuman? What is Hanuman's heart? The heart of this story is Lord Chaitanya Lord Ram is revealing the heart of Hanuman. Where did that power of Hanuman come to pick up mountains and jump over oceans? To be the greatest of the examples of surrendered servants of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his form of Ram, wanted to reveal to the world the heart of Hanuman. Murari Gupta said, if you want to offer me a benediction, just allow me to be a servant of a servant of a servant of your servants. That's all I want. Let me just be among your devotees to chant the holy names and hear your glories, to serve them. Haridas Thakur is Lord Brahma. Lord Chaitanya manifested his form of Krishna to Haridas and said, any benediction, what you want. He said, let me be a dog outside the house of your devotee. So that when the devotees eat prasad and they throw out their plates and the remnants after eating, I'll be able to go and eat that. He's the Namacharya. But here in this Mahaprakash Leela, Lord Chaitanya is revealing the heart. Why he's the Namacharya. And Haridas was ashamed. He said, my audacity, how could I ask for something so exalted as this? Getting the remnants of the food of your devotees that are thrown in the garbage. How can I, in my position, ask for such an exalted benediction as this? And this is sincere, from his soul he's speaking. And Lord Chaitanya, for Kulavecha Sridhar, who was living as an emaciated, poverty-stricken man in the outskirts of the town, Simantadweep. The only benediction he asked, let me just always remember you, and let me be the servant of the servant of the servant of all your servants. And in this mood, let me always remember little Nimai coming and stealing my bananas. Now we laugh, and we're supposed to laugh because it's really nice. But if we go deep into it, he had so little. He was barely surviving with the little he had to sell. And every day Nimai was coming and stealing his bananas. Why would you know, if you have a lot and somebody steals from you, it doesn't make that much difference. But when they're basically taking your whole income away, and he didn't even know that Nimai was God. He just loved him. Such a mood of surrender. That was the joy of his life. That's love. Unconditional love. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving everything to everyone. He was not only fulfilling the desires they were asking for, but he was giving them himself totally. But Lord Chaitanya never called Mukunda to come to ask for anything. In fact, he was ignoring Mukunda Datta. And all the devotees, by this time they had already gotten the darshan of the Lord. Mahaprabhu was manifesting his different features of Krishna to him, to each one of them, praising them, exalting them individually, and giving every benediction. Wouldn't you be happy? But their hearts were grieving because he was ignoring Mukunda. What was this Srivasangam Sankirtan? They cared so much for each other. Nobody was thinking, it's about me. Either physically, emotionally, or even spiritually. It's about us. Mukunda was suffering because he felt so offensive that he was being neglected. The devotees were begging and crying to Lord Chaitanya, please call Mukunda. His heart is broken, don't ignore him. Lord Chaitanya said, that wretch Mukunda, I will not see him for 10 million births. Actually, he said, no, first I will never see him. And then Mukunda was really brokenhearted. And the devotees, Mukunda was just he was almost hiding. He was so humble. But the devotees were praying to Lord Chaitanya, please, don't treat him like this. Give him your mercy. And Lord Chaitanya said, I will let him see me after 10 million births. How would you take that one? Well, if we want pure bhakti, we have to learn at least to aspire to assimilate the character of these great saints. Mukunda began to dance in ecstatic happiness. In only 10 million births. course I'm going to get to see the Lord. I don't deserve that. He's so merciful. He's given me a guarantee after 10 million births I can see him. And he was dancing. I will see, I will see. Devotees were amazed. Even Lord Chaitanya was amazed. He said, Lord Chaitanya laughed. He said, Mukunda, come now, come now. But Mukunda was in such a trance, such a state of ecstatic samadhi. He was totally absorbed because Mukunda Datta was one of the main kirtan leaders in Sri Vasanga. It's described when he sang kirtan, it was with such devotion and such love and such devotionally infused musical quality that when he would chant the names of Krishna, Krishna would manifest in everyone's heart. And when he was standing before Lord Chaitanya, he said, how is this possible you're allowing me to see you? Because I have no devotion. And he gave so many scriptural examples. Kamsa saw Krishna, but he had no devotion. Hiranyakashipu saw Narsingadev, but he had no devotion. Hiranyaksha saw Varahadev, but he had no devotion. So even though I'm seeing you, still I have no devotion. But then even the most insignificant devotees who had devotion, how Krishna revealed himself to them. In other words, what he's saying is a statement that Srila Prabhupada often quoted from his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And it really should be a statement that defines our devotional service. To my dear God brothers, God sisters who are so merciful to me and to all of us, they have heard this so many times. Srila Prabhupada would say, do not try to see Krishna. Try to serve Krishna in a way that he is pleased to see you. That was at the heart of Mukunda Datta's prayer. So this is the kind of mood that was created in Sri Vasangam for that 1 year. The devotees were a united community, filled with every type of variation and variegatedness in external considerations. But they were one in their being servants of the servants who really cared for each other, and that is why their Sankirtan was Prema Sankirtan. And after that year, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually so many people were criticizing him. And how they criticized Srivas. Mahaprabhu, how he subjected poor Srivas by having those kirtans in his house and not allowing anybody else in except his special invitees. They weren't blaming Lord Chaitanya, they were blaming Srivas. They were blaming Lord Chaitanya too, but especially Srivas. Why he's not letting us in. And these were not just, common gossipers. Can you imagine if there was an internet in those days? Srivas, they would have really gone viral. They were saying those horrible things about Srivas. He's just a greedy, envious person. We should break down his house. We should throw it in the Ganges. And Srivas is hearing all these things. But Lord Chaitanya, this is the way he wants it. Even when Srivas Pandit's son died during a kirtan, he kept it a secret so it didn't disturb Lord Chaitanya's happiness. His only son. Who is this Srivas? So it was at his house. And then so many people were criticizing and threatening and plotting and making conspiracies against. But then common innocent people, they were coming to the door in the mornings, just crying, "We just want your blessings. We want to be part of this kirtan too." And Lord Chaitanya told them, "You all go home and you all chant, and I will be with you." And how wonderful. Can you imagine getting that instruction from Lord Chaitanya? Just go home, chant when you're when you're eating, chant when you're sleeping, chant when you're working in your shops, chant when you're with your family, play musical instruments and chant, chant when you're all alone. Just keep chanting. And they did it. And they were attacked by the military, by the police. There was laws made. If anybody's chanting like this in the open, all of their possessions will be plundered. They will be imprisoned. They will be beaten. They were breaking mridangas and instruments. They were beating people. There was hundreds and hundreds of guards throughout the day looking for anybody chanting so they could punish them brutally. And they came to Lord Chaitanya. They said, "Please help us, we're trying to follow your instruction." Lord Chaitanya said, "No, you just go back." But it was getting worse. Sometimes we think, oh, if we just follow, everything's going to be so nice. I was just hearing a recording of Srila Prabhupada, and he was describing how in our Hare Krishna movement, devotees are finding so much opposition in many places. But Lord, like Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada said, just go on chanting. And eventually, this brings true greatness of devotion from the hearts of devotees. Not when it's just convenient. The element of surrender. In a pure devotional state, surrender is the spontaneous, natural expression of the soul's love for God under all circumstances. But in the state of trying to make spiritual progress from a conditioned state, surrender means we embrace what pleases our gurus and Krishna, even when things are presenting the most painful repercussions. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at one time, he wanted just devotees to surrender against all impediments. And when he said that, Advaitacharya, he said, "Oh my Lord, these impediments are your friends because they help the devotees to take shelter of you." So after some time, Lord Chaitanya said, "I will lead the kirtan." And that's where public Sankirtan began. First Sankirtan began among the community of devotees in total harmony with each other. And then they expanded the Sankirtan to the world. And soon hundreds and thousands, millions of people in Navadvip were engaged in Sankirtan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas so that the people who were criticizing him would also perform Sankirtan. Can we even imagine this? He endured such a renunciation. Sachi Devi, his mother, to never see her again. Vishnu Priya, his eternal consort, to not see her again in this Leela. Sri Vasangam, to leave Navadvip, the spiritual world, not different than Vrindavan. Sri Vasangam was the Rasa Leela Mandala. To leave all that, why? To reach the people who were criticizing him. To give them bhakti. And that's what he did. He took sannyas. And he was going to Vrindavan. Nityananda brought him back to Shantipur. Sachi Mata said, "Please don't go to Vrindavan, it's too far away. Live in Jagannath Puri, because the same Krishna Vrindavan is living in Puri as Jagannath." And close relation between Navadvip and Jagannath. So Lord Chaitanya went to Jagannath Puri to make his base, and within a few months, he left Puri to go on his South Indian tour, where he was spreading the Sankirtan movement to everyone and anyone. So 100 years ago in 1922, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave this instruction to Srila Prabhupada: take the message of Lord Chaitanya to the whole world in the English language. Because from the English language, all other languages are accessible. And what is at the heart of that message of Lord Chaitanya? Sankirtan. Where we learn Sankirtan doesn't just mean dancing and singing. Sankirtan is a whole spirit of every aspect of our life. When Srila Prabhupada instructed devotees to distribute books, it was called Sankirtan. Sharing bhakti with others in this spirit of Mahaprabhu's legacy is what Sankirtan is. But it's centered around the chanting of the holy names. So when we speak about community, if we're followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our spiritual lives are inseparable from the communities that we're in. Even Haridas Thakur, he was living in caves in Benapole. He was living in forests. But after he came in contact with Lord Chaitanya, he lived among the devotees. He lived at at Fuliagram. He lived in a cave, but he was going to Advaitacharya's house. And when Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, he was there all day and every day, chanting and dancing and serving with devotees. The 6 Goswamis were all sent to Vrindavan, but they would regularly meet. They had community. But in Kali Yuga, community is one of the hardest things. Because we all have so much diversity among ourselves. So I even talk about it. That's where bhakti comes in. When we understand the will of Srila Prabhupada, we understand the will of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj and Bhakti Vinod Thakur and these great souls and the Panchatattva of Mahaprabhu. Actually, Krishna's Vrindavan Leela is just community. I remember one time Janani Vas Prabhu, the head pujari of Mayapur, came to Radha Gopinath Temple in Chowpatty. He began a class. He just looked out at everyone. There was actually more people in tonight. And he looked out at everyone and he said, Vrindavan is simply family life. Everybody's a family. There's Yashoda, there's Nanda, everyone loves Krishna as their own child, and Krishna loves everyone as his own parents, and everybody's friends, and it's community. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu developed community. And in Kali Yuga, that's difficult. People are torn apart by different issues. Torn apart by different conditioned, habitual mindsets. We, each and every one of us, have to take responsibility to protect, to defend the safety and integrity of the members of our community, and to actually inspire. That's the way we'll really please Srila Prabhupada and Krishna, by taking responsibility. To give an example of rising above our false egos. It's difficult. But if we want to chant the holy names with a real, actual, not just an imitation, entertainment form of taste for chanting, but if we wanted to have the taste of love for Krishna as we're chanting, Trinada Pisuniche, it's necessary. So when Srila Prabhupada established the Sankirtan movement all over the world on behalf of Lord Chaitanya and his Guru Maharaj, he was actually manifesting a spiritual assembly line. And where is a better place to discuss this than Detroit? And Srila Prabhupada, his temple in Detroit, Radha Kunja Vihari Temple, was one of his favorite places. He was so proud of that wonderful, wonderful project. And how grateful he was to Ambarish Prabhu and the others who actually helped him procure it. Srila Prabhupada really loved Ambarish Prabhu. But after getting the most beautiful temple in all of the Western world at that time, his mercy, his gratitude to Ambarish was not only bestowing love upon him, but telling him, you should build TOVP also. And Ambarish has done it. And actually Ambarish Prabhu and Swaha Devi, they, by their willingness and their family to actually do everything they can to manifest that desire of Srila Prabhupada, they've inspired our whole movement to participate. That's Sankirtan, inspiring each other, bringing the best out of each other. So his great-grandfather, he started, a little assembly line to make some cars to take people places. But Srila Prabhupada has inspired him to assist in an assembly line to bring ecstatic love for Krishna to the whole world through the congregational chanting of the holy names. In 1922, Srila Prabhupada got the instruction. Now it's 2022, the 100th anniversary. (1922 to 2022). I first left Vrindavan to come to New Vrindavan in 1972. According to the Vedic calendar, my birthday this year was on November 22. And I happen to be 72. And Radha and Krishna are too. So I don't know what I'm saying. What I'm saying. So Srila Prabhupada is giving this opportunity to all of us. And me too. But the idea of two means together. Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, he's in Vrindavan, his eternal home. Imagine, he was living in a little room on the rooftop of Radha Damodar Temple, tiny room. And after a couple years, he was given a chance to live on the ground floor with those two little rooms. And I remember going there in 1971, and Malati Devi Prabhu, we remember what it was like then. Those rooms were really simple. The way they are now they're very, very much opulent and modernized compared to then. And he had nothing desire to fulfill the order of his guru, to spread the Sankirtan movement of love for Krishna all over the world. And I believe the groundbreaking ceremony for Krishna Balaram Temple was in 1972 also. I remember when I met Malati Devi Prabhu and all the devotees in 1971, November, December, when Srila Prabhupada came to Vrindavan. I don't remember if you remember me, but I remember you. You were always cooking for Srila Prabhupada and running around. And I remember this little Saraswati, she would run around. And I remember Srila Prabhupada said in a public lecture, this little girl Saraswati, whoever she sees, she says, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. And Srila Prabhupada said, that is preaching. She is a preacher. Whatever she knows, she's repeating the authority that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. And I heard that and I was thinking, this is really wonderful. And then the next day I was just standing and little Saraswati ran up to me and grabbed my hand. And I didn't know who it was. I just looked down and this little girl was holding my hand. And I looked down at her and she said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. I was feeling so blessed. But I believe it was at that time in 71 where that offering of land was given to Srila Prabhupada. And in 72, I think that groundbreaking in Mayapur also. So we have been given something so wonderful. And after giving it to the world, Srila Prabhupada came back to Vrindavan, where he was kind of in a state like Madhavendra Puri was physically. And he couldn't say much, but he was still, somehow or other, we've seen those videos that Yaduvar Prabhu and Vishaka Prabhu have taken where he's making his purports for the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he told devotees, you can show your love for me by how you cooperate. It sounds sweet, but that is, in Kali Yuga, almost like an ultimate challenge. What does it mean to cooperate? It's beyond just sentiment. It means we really have to be what Srila Prabhupada wants us to be. Cooperation in Kali Yuga really have to go beyond the ego. And how do we go beyond the ego? Well, we understand our purpose in life is to please Krishna. And to please Srila Prabhupada is to please Krishna. Until and unless we're willing to do that and chant the holy names in that spirit, the ecstatic pastimes of Vrindavan remain on the mental state. It's through our taking shelter of the holy names and taking shelter of this spirit of Sankirtan, servant of the servant, that our heart is actually receptive so that those pastimes can transform and awaken prema or love in our hearts. Thank you very much. I want to offer my special gratitude, Malati Devi, for your life of devotion to Srila Prabhupada. I remember the most exalted saintly Yamuna Devi, when she would speak about Malati Devi, she would speak about a surrender that was extraordinary. She was just there to do everything for Srila Prabhupada at every moment, and nothing could stop. And she was tested with the most unwelcoming situations to perform her service. And when someone like Yamuna Devi is giving that type of heartfelt praise with tears in her eyes, we can understand, Malati Devi, how dear you are forever to Srila Prabhupada. And Chintamani Devi, I was a little brahmachari at New Vrindavan. Actually, Malati Devi, I never twisted my hair, I just never combed it. I didn't make it mad, it just happened. You know, the Himalayas didn't look like this. The trees were really cold. I think it was 2 years I never saw a mirror. I had no idea what I looked like anymore. I didn't even know. I didn't care. But yes, when I came to New Vrindavan, and I lived up at that old, and that's why I was sent up there, because they just didn't see how I could fit in the community. The community was Bahulaban. There was just a few people way up on the mountain, and they just didn't see how I could fit in this community, because I was really strange. So I'm sure they set me up there thinking that I would leave. But somehow or other, I didn't get the hint. But I was up there, and there was just a few grihastas, Hayagriva Prabhu and Shamadasi, and little baby Samba, and Willow, and Sky, and Adipati, and Prachi Devi. There's just like 6 people living up there. And on the altar of that old, beaten down farmhouse, there was just a little wooden altar, like a table, and on the altar there was a painting of Sadbhuja, of Lord Chaitanya with 6 arms. And then there was the disciplic succession pictures, very small, and that was it. There was no deities. And that went on for some months. And then Chintamani Devi came. She just came up all alone. And she put deities on the altar. Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra. I was thinking, this is amazing. We actually have deities up here now. And I remember she told that Srila Prabhupada personally gave her those deities. She's one of the pioneers of our movement. Her and Sudama Maharaj, they started Krishna consciousness in Japan. They went to these foreign countries to establish our movement. In those days, nobody had anything. Nobody had any resources. No one was sponsoring. You know, now we go somewhere and we're expecting somebody's going to facilitate and send me. But they, you know, when Malati Devi and Shama Sundar and Mukunda Maharaj and Guru Das Prabhu and Yamuna Devi and Janaki Devi, when they went to London, they had nothing. They were sometimes living in basement warehouses, in little cardboard boxes, in brutal British winters. They were all separated. They'd just come together. That was the pioneering days. Chintamani Devi was one of those pioneers. And when her husband was given sannyas, Prabhupada gave her those deities. And I think, can you say what Prabhupada said about Jagannath and Balaram? If you could wait till the microphone goes on.
Oh, so I was sent to Hong Kong. That was the cheapest ticket, you know, when he took sannyas after 2.5 years of being married, because that's when all his friends had taken sannyas. So anyway, so I was sent to Hong Kong, where Borjan and Jagadrini were, and those Jagannaths were supposed to be on the altar there. I was very attached to those deities. I'd taken care of them. I didn't know what I was doing when we first got the deities, but I was very attached to those deities. And they had wooden garlands, and Borjan was talking about they were going to cut off the garlands, and I was saying, you can't do that. And he said, you're so attached to these deities, you should keep them. So it wasn't yet that Prabhupada gave me that instruction. So then from Hong Kong, 2 devotees decided to go to Manila to open a temple, and they asked me if I wanted to come because I knew how to cook and I had deities. So we went and opened that temple in Manila. When I came back, I was thinking I wanted to go back to New Vrindavan because that was my best experience being up at the old farm with Prabhupada in 1969. I wanted to go back to New Vrindavan. So when I came through Los Angeles, I had those deities, and at that time, no one had their own deities. And they were in a box in the ashram, and Ananga Majari said she remembers I was waving a carrot in front of them. What are you doing? I said, they're hungry, and I don't remember that. But everyone said, you can't have your own deities. What are you doing? And I was always too afraid to talk to Prabhupada, but we could go see him at a darshan, and I got the courage up to go. And I brought them. They had their little box. And I went up, and there was no one else in the room. I was really scared to talk to Prabhupada, but I had to ask him. So I opened the box and said, Srila Prabhupada, I have Lord Jagannath. I want them to see you. And I stood them up. And he was smiling. He said, they are gorgeous. He said, so your husband's taken sannyas? And I said, yes. And he said, then you just make Lord Jagannath your husband, Subhadra your daughter, and Lord Jagannath and Balaram your son. He said it 2 times. He said, every woman needs husband, son, and daughter, and you will be happy your whole life. He gave me other instructions also, but so after that, no one questioned or said, what are you doing with deities? I went to India. They were on altars all over the world, and they're very merciful. I still have them, and they're the most merciful deities because they're still with me in spite of my unqualification. So, thank you.
you. Were you a student at Ohio University in Athens? Yeah, when Srila Prabhupada went, Pradyumna Prabhu told me that whole story just about a couple months ago about how Prabhupada went for one day to Athens, Ohio University, and 4 devotees, full-time historical devotees that are still serving today, all came from that one little trip. He just went there and drove and came back. Taroni Devi, Yadanandan Prabhu, Sanat Kumar Prabhu, and Chintamani Devi.
I came from Columbus.
Oh, you came from
I met Pradyumna when he came. He visited Athens, and I'd been vegetarian for a year, and I was doing yoga. I was studying with Dr. Mishra. I had went to New York and stayed with one of his chief disciples. I was ready to go to become a Dr. Mishra disciple. And Pradyumna came, and I went, and there wasn't any vegetarian food at that time in the university, and he cooked this whole feast. And I was looking at everything, like, what is that, what is that? And he was trying to sell me the Bhagavad Gita. I said, I've got the Bhagavad Gita. It wasn't Prabhupada's, but what is this? Halava, what is this? And so then the next quarter I went back and lived with my parents, and Pradyumna had just gotten that house and opened the preaching center. So I started going, and then Prabhupada came. I wrote a letter to Prabhupada in April asking questions about Jesus Christ because I had been a Christian. And the next month I was initiated. Yeah. I would never be able to initiate nowadays because you have to know all these courses. I'm serious. I made it. Prabhupada's mercy. Anyway.
Srila Prabhupada saw something so special. Guru Kripa. And Sri Nandanandan Prabhu, actually in most exalted assemblies in India and worldwide, he's asked to be a keynote speaker. His scholarship, his devotion, his commitment, his enthusiasm, his books. Such a humble gentleman and friend, always. So honored you're here, Sri Nandanandan Prabhu. And Nityotita Prabhu. We're like lifelong friends. We have crossed many oceans of inconceivable situations together. And your Nityotita Prabhu, loyalty to Srila Prabhupada and dedication to his mission and seeking the essence is just always such a great inspiration for all of us. Thank you. And Jagat Guru Prabhu, I'm sorry, your good wife's name? Sriranga Devi.
Sri Radha.
Radha Devi. I'm so honored and grateful you are both here with us today. Your dedication, your example, your wonderful children. When I think of Detroit, you are somehow or other the remembrance of both of you spring from my heart and bring me great jubilation. Such a dedication. And I would like to speak about each and every one of you. I don't think you want me to do that. I spoke spoke briefly about Kamagiri Devi yesterday. She's really like a mother of the universe for me. When I first started going to Cleveland, I don't remember the year exactly, but when they installed the little Radha Muralidhars, I was a pujari at New Vrindavan, so I was actually go to Cleveland and conduct the installation ceremony for those little deities. The large Radha Muralidhars were already there. And then later when I started doing traveling, and I would meet Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj there, that was the most wonderful. And that temple was hard. I mean, yes, if you locked your van, they definitely broke. They definitely broke. It wasn't maybe. Anything that was in it that was movable was gone. And there were gunshots going off and sirens. It was quite a auspicious place to preach. And Kamagiri Devi, she would always be I just remember in the back of the temple, sitting alone, making garlands with little babies all over the place. And as I was coming, it seemed like every year there was another baby. She did the cooking, and she was just like no desire for prestige, recognition, just total eagerness to be the servant of the servant of the servant. And you're such an example of everything Srila Prabhupada really wanted our devotees to aspire for.
Maharaj, if not for your example and encouragement, we could not have made it.
Whatever she's about to say is simply a personification of what I was just talking about.
No, actually, I have to tell the truth. But by your example and just coming and encouraging us, even in the midst of so many obstacles and mountains to climb and